So we've got our slope established and most of the bark off of our reed. At this point, we have not overscraped the heart. The heart still has some bark-like cane, in it. The reed obviously will not make any noise right now because we have not clipped it open. It's probably too thick to make noise anyways, but we need to clip it open first so we can put a plaque in and make a tip. So I clip as little of the hinge off as possible to open it up. I usually do this with a gem razor blade. Okay, so we have now an open reed, a double reed. Once I've clipped it, I test the suction. This reed does seal very well, which is necessary. If it doesn't seal at this point, it's pretty much a throwaway. Then what I do is I hold the reed with my pointer finger here and push this way with my thumb on the top blade, and I get that little click. That is just reinforcing the overlap of the reed. You see how the bottom blade protrudes to the left and the top blade is just off to the right. That's what we want. And then I check to make sure it seals again, and it does. Now we can make our tip. There's no sense in leaving the tip of the reed this thick. It's not gonna vibrate, barely, but it's definitely not playable. So we need to make a tip. So I insert the plaque carefully, about that far, and take my knife and make a tip. Now I don't measure at this point because I've just gotten used to sort of eyeballing where these measurements are, but I want the base of my tip to be at 66 millimeters from the bottom of the tube. So just to give you an idea, put the bottom of the tube even there, and we're just a hair above 70. So I'm gonna basically put this tip where it looks right to me, which is right about there, okay? That's about where I want the bottom of the tip to be. If it goes lower, you will likely end up with a shorter reed in order to compensate for that lower tip. That you would think creates a sharper reed, but to me it just makes the reed unstable and usually flat. So, make a tip. Put my knife in there and just dig in. Go off the end of the tip, focusing more on the sides than on the center. I don't want to scrape directly in the center there. I'm going to mostly go off the sides here. And again on this quadrant. Again, you want to do this step with a sharp knife and do it relatively quickly. Okay. You're starting to be able to see the plaque a little bit through the cane. I don't want to get it super thin at this point because I want to leave the reed balanced. I want the reed to be balanced at every stage. So I'll do that over here. Oh, yeah, a little mistake there. But we're gonna end up clipping that off. And that's a problem with, or a possible problem with this sort of slicing method of scraping, is that sometimes your knife catches the cane wrong and you do have a little mistake. But it's not too bad, you can adapt. Now, the reason that you may ask them, why do I scrape like this? Well, this knife has not been sharpened on a sharpening steel. I don't even have one handy right now. This knife is just what I would call kitchen knife sharp. It's slicing, it doesn't have a big turned burr on it, and I find that helpful for scraping the tip because it lets me very smoothly scrape and have a nice, smooth sort of taper to the tip, especially at this point. Now, this tip is not very well defined at all. We're gonna fix that later, but now the reed will vibrate. Is it very beautiful? No, not yet, but it vibrates, okay? Now, what I do next, I would call refining the tip. And I do that step, refining the tip, until the crow becomes one unified sound. I'm not too concerned with pitch yet. in the crow, but I want this rattle to go away. I want that rattle to calm down and be a more unified sound. So that will be our next step.